This happened in 8th grade. Me and my two friends A and C were spending our free period watching anime. All was going well until D showed up. Now this guy is not your usual weeb. Along with the usual behavior, he would try to act as irritating as possible during our free periods, especially around us. So while we were minding our own business, he thought it would be a great idea just to mess with me by getting me in trouble with the teacher. We had a substitute teacher that makes everyone sit in rows of 4. It wouldn't be a problem except for the fact that another person was sitting in our row. He plops himself right next to us, and I think nothing of it until the other person in the row, who I later found out was one of his friends, tells the teacher that I stole his seat and was bullying him. The teacher then yells out my name and storms over to me, clearly somehow buying the obvious lie. I then would spend the rest of my free period outside the class, with A sneaking out to comfort me. When I confronted him about this, he said, and I quote, "I did it because you and your friends are such filthy bakas." It's been 2 years and I still can't stand him or his friends. So this is a story from an incident at an anime meetup I attended with a friend. The major players in the story are me, my friend G, and the Weeb. G invited me to a small anime meetup at her school and I decided to go with her. 2 things you need to know about me. I have very long hair for a guy, about armpit length, and I do mostly budget cosplay for cons. I went to this meetup as a budget Luffy cosplay, which consists of a red tank top, shorts, brown sandals, and an official looking hat. While G and I were at the meetup, a girl in cosplay I didn't recognize came up to me. All she said to me was, "You should cut your hair." I looked at her and said, "What?" And she responds with, "Your hair's too long, Luffy doesn't have long hair." I shrugged her off and went about my business. I didn't think much about the weeb, but when I felt a small tug on my hair. I looked around and saw the weeb behind me as well as the scissors I had knocked out of her hands. It didn't take long for me to put 2 and 2 together, so I yelled at her, "What are you doing?" She just stares blankly at me, clearly not thinking she had done anything wrong. Some other people at the meetup escorted her out and I didn't see her for the rest of the night. I still have long hair, and I still don't do anything with it when I cosplay aside from tying it back in a ponytail. The first time I saw anime was from a friend named Evie. We started watching from these tapes that had Sailor Moon on them. They had maybe 2 to 4 episodes on them, and we only had maybe 3 tapes, but we'd binge watch these all the time. Then Netflix came along, and Evie and I were a bit older, maybe 9 or 10. Evie began watching all the anime that you would watch back then, things like Bleach, Soul Eater, Black Butler, all those things. We tried watching Naruto and gave up at episode 7. All these having much more risque themes aimed at people who were probably 14 or 16 aged audience. I wasn't allowed to watch with her, but on occasion I would see an episode. Especially the worst possibly seen in an episode, I think, was one of Soul Eater, where the 2 girls that work for Poncho Gun Symmetry Kid are all tied up and do questionable things. Now while I didn't understand it, Evie was mortified. Fast forward a bit and it was at my first convention. I was maybe 11 at the time because I had to go with my mom and had bought a bunch of Princess Tutu stuff. I see Evie and one of her friends and she quickly says hi to me and takes pictures with me. Now Evie at the time was obsessed with this one guy from Bleach. He had this hole in his neck and a bunch of black lines on his face. He also had this weird white mask thing on his head. I don't really know his name and I don't really feel like looking him up. A lot of the story is pretty much like that, I think. So Evie gets there and we talk and I, in my childish ignorance, say, "Hey, they have pillows with that guy on it." Evie stops cold and grabs my hand and books it to the dealer's room. She wanted a body pillow of this guy so bad. She ended up buying it by the time I figured out where I was, and every night when I went to sleep, I saw his creepy, dead, anime eyes staring at me. She called him her husband, and she's saying that she was married to a bunch of other anime characters and even printed out pictures to go on her wall. By the time I was older and watched the animes I had once been forbidden to, I went through a short but not too bad weeb phase. Just a slight obsession for about 2 weeks and on to the next. And then Homestuck happened. But we don't talk about that. To wrap up, Evie grew out of her weeaboo phase and the body pillow is now in our attic and waiting to be sold to another weeb. Evie still buys anime junk and I'm just sitting here with my own personal OC hell. So it's alright with the world. It started in 7th grade. I was in my Black Butler phase and I was desperately in love with CL. My phase is over and I never went into the yaoi side. I'm still a part of the fandom and I still enjoy the anime. At some point in the year I made a friend named Abby and a few others. I met Luna and apparently Abby and Luna were twin sisters. They looked nothing alike and had no family connected. And they were part of the moon cult. And they would look at the moon, gain memories from their past lives, which I call BS. She apparently was a vampire queen and everyone was her slave. She wanted us to do an anime about two sisters and the sun and the moon and that the sun was banished, yada yada yada. She has us all reenact it during free period in the upstairs hallway. Next was the Hidden Side Club, which is a club and we wrote songs. Abby made the club and my friend Thea wanted to join, but Luna said she couldn't. Luna wasn't the leader. Also, when writing songs, she tried to sing super high. She was an alto. Altos sing low notes, not high notes like sopranos 1s and 2s. That didn't make it to the 8th grade. Now the talent show. This memory will forever haunt me. We attempted to write a story and enter the talent show, but my friend Meredith didn't want to do it, so we didn't. Luna decided to reenact a scene from an anime in front of people. But thank God she didn't get in. Now let's fast forward to 8th grade. This was after my show choir competition. She asked my friend Alana a very disturbing question. Alana is average weight and kinda short and was in the 7th grade. She was kind of weebish but not extremely bad and innocent. Luna is an obese, acne-ridden, greasy haired, and smells like an anime convention and was held back a year or two. During this, she would be 15 and 16, Alana would be 12 and I was 13. Keep that in mind. She asked Alana if she wanted to be in a mixed harem. I recognized the word and the perverted smirk on her face and I was disgusted to no end. I got super angry at her, and keep in mind, I was very rational in these kind of situations, so back then if I go angry, you better believe I was pissed. Alana didn't know what that meant at first, but she put 2 and 2 together and was disgusted and squeamish. Also during the 8th grade, she called a black student a slave. She said ninjas were attacking her boyfriend, Fireheart, and she also said that she was engaged to her brother, so basically Fireheart is her brother Jake. And she told Meredith she would come to her house with a katana. She said that she was protected by the Japanese government. She was thankfully moved away, and I'm so happy that she is gone. No more weeb BS from a self-proclaimed vampire queen and a Japanese princess whose parents never let her act in the purification ritual called showering.